Hello, my name is Michael. I'm a bookseller here at Apple Tree Books. We're having a discussion today with Eric Henry, one of our very good customers. And to my surprise, what I know about Eric's reading, his deep reading in history and biography from his purchases from the store, his readings in political history and religious history from his readings at the store. And I know about Eric as a wide traveling professional who does international travel. I was surprised that he picked the book Quiet to focus on for today's discussion. So Eric, my first question obviously is for a gentleman who reads political, social, biographical history and does international travel and makes presentations all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at your pick of the book Quiet. Do you want to talk about that for
Yes, in my earlier career, I worked for the NASDAQ stock market, and one of the courses that they put us through was a course on change management. And the first part of that course was to take a personality test from Myers-Briggs, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And as they walked us through the different levels, the different values that you can get in that personality type to put together your overall personality, the first one is a choice or a spectrum between introverted and extroverted. And they had a group of us, after we took the test, get together to sort of illustrate what these two values, these two character traits were. And they put a group of us together and put another group together, and they would call us in independently to talk to the rest of the people in the class. And the question was, what would be your ideal holiday, your ideal vacation? And the other group came in and we got to listen to them, and they said, oh, we would love to get out and get a party together and have a bunch of people over to our home and maybe get out on the lake and enjoy one another's company. And then they pulled us in, and we said, well, we'd love to clean the house, organize our library, sit and read, maybe watch a little TV, snuggle up by the fire. And the contrast was incredible. And the reason they picked us was because we hit the extremes in that spectrum of introversion or extroversion. And the more I got to learning about what introversion and extroversion actually were, not so much being shy and withdrawn and not speaking, but being an indicator of where you get energy from, the more it occurred to me that I really was an introvert. If you're in control of a situation, if you're speaking, if you're presenting, if you're leading a group, in a certain direction, providing directive activity, those are things you can do as an introvert, and that's one of the things that Susan Cain, the author of this book, as well as other authors have discussed, that as an introvert you get your energy from being alone. It doesn't mean you don't interact well with others, it doesn't mean you can't lead and do those kinds of activities, but it means that when you're alone, that's when you re-energize, that's when you refresh yourself. And an extrovert gets their energy from groups, from social activity, from being around other people. So that actually has helped me in my interactions and in my work to learn to act extroverted where I need to, but to also seek that time to be alone, to read, and to enjoy that time. And it's what's made me, I think, an extensive reader, is that's the time that I really begin to re-energize.
Okay, that's interesting. I find that interesting. I took the Myers-Briggs, but it was so long ago I forget what I was.
Right.
I forget the background. I'm thinking about this focus on quiet, mm-hmm. and Susan Cain, her
Yep.
book Quiet.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, I know she gives examples in there of people to whom we should be grateful because of their accomplishments, mm-hmm. Who are introverts. Do some of those people come to mind? And
Yep.
do you do you see a spillover like we were talking about Thomas Jefferson
Right.
and his experience in public life? Do you want to talk about a couple of individuals that she mentions as notable introverts, and maybe carry that over to some of your reading and biography and history?
Yeah, so Jefferson is a good example, and people would not normally think of Jefferson as being an introvert because he was president of the United States. He was deeply involved in the revolutionary work of the country with all of the people from all the different states, and tried to work in that context, but truly was an introvert. He spent that time alone. He had the large library. He was a polymath. Other examples are Einstein. Einstein was an introvert and spent his time at the trademark office in Switzerland, developing his theory of relativity. But it was all that alone time, and he talked a lot about the necessity for that. He played the violin when he needed to be alone. I think Steve Jobs, quite likely, was sort of on the borderline there. But if you look at Steve Wozniak, who worked with Steve Jobs, he was actually the developer of a lot of the Apple products, spent time in the garage, really did the heads down technical work. He needed Jobs to be out there and to promote and to drive work, but it was Steve Wozniak's technical expertise that gave us the Apple that we have today. So these are people that are very accomplished and in all different areas of expertise and leadership. Warren Buffett is one that she brings up a couple of times. Susan Cain brings up Warren Buffett a couple of times and actually contrasts the way he made money in an investing work, right, with the way that Wall Street traders often make money, also in the investing world. And that difference between planned, proactive, considerate, well thought out approaches to very reactionary, very subject to rumor and whatever's happening at the moment, very instantaneous type of reactive investing. So she uses that as quite a contrast, and using Warren Buffett as really kind of a preeminent introvert of our day.
Okay. I wonder if Susan Cain's Quiet, The Irresistible Introvert by Michaela Chung,
Okay.
The Solitude, A Return to Self by Anthony Storr, and we have the even kids books, Quiet by Tommy De Paola, and The Turtle's Guide to Introversion by Tone Max. All these seem to be talking about not just the concept or the person who's the introvert, but what you can draw on from within yourself to be an introvert. Have you found that to be, to be the case? For instance, you fly to Europe for your work, and I know you make presentations there. Do you find being an introvert, I suppose you would find that being you get some strength from that. Your strength comes from inside, not from work in the room. Not to say you can't work the room, but do you find that, how do you contrast that with people you see who, in business, who work the room?
Yeah, so I would take there's a couple of thoughts that come to mind as you ask the question. Number one, part of my work is also producing things, right? Whether it's producing a presentation or my current work, and I spent most of my career in the medical, once I left NASDAQ, in the medical device industry. I now work for the FDA and life sciences practice of a large law firm, providing advice to companies on regulatory and compliance issues. And so I often have to help companies develop processes and develop guides and help them put organizations together. And what I find is when I get that time to focus and concentrate, I can be extraordinarily productive. to the point that, in fact, even just a conversation I had literally 2 days ago with a client, he said, I can't believe, and probably to the chagrin of my lawyer friends in the firm, I can't believe how much you give us for how few hours you bill us. So it does, I think, help productivity to be able to have that alone time and to know how to really spend that focused time and to take advantage of that. But in terms of interacting, so the second thought that comes to my mind is when you're interacting with others and out. Number one, you tend to be a little more sensitive to what's going on around you, and you absorb a lot of that information. You absorb the reactions of people and the way that they work. You're not victimized by it. You don't get a rush from it. You just kind of stand aside as an observer almost of the way people work and interact. And I think, at least in my view, I found that it makes me hypersensitive almost, and maybe to a fault at some points, but to what's going on around me and to what people are feeling and what their needs are, and how best to make them happy, or when they're starting to feel irritated, or when they're feeling impatient. And because of that sort of sensitivity to what's going on around you, I find that it helps me work the room a little bit better. You become more of an observer of human behavior. Again, sort of as an outsider, as opposed to got to be in the mix and mixing it around with people all the time.
Fascinating. Well, Eric, I want to thank you for a very interesting book discussion, and we will look ahead to another discussion. All the books we mentioned today, Quiet, Solitude, The Irresistible Introvert, and others, Quiet Power, are available here at Apple Tree Books in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And the books we're going to talk about in the future, the biographies, the histories, these will also be available at Apple Tree Books.
Thank you.